Cincinnati's ready for the Big 12. It was time for them.
I am fired up.
It's a blessing to be able to be in this league with y'all, putting on for UC.
Cincinnati, a basketball school for...
And there he goes. Touchdown, Bearcats!
Raquama again, another slam inside.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the GoBeercats Podcast, part of the Catskeller Social Club. I am your host, Brandon, and we got a very good show here for you today. Right off the bat here, things might be a little wonky, as if you're watching on YouTube, you only see me on the screen right now. That is because our guest will be joining us shortly here to talk Bearcats beating Pitt. Just a moment, we'll be joined by Russ Heltman, podcaster, contributor to Sports Illustrated. I'll give him a proper introduction once he jumps on here. First time I've ever started the show by myself since I've switched over here to video. So doing things a little bit different here. We'll see how this works out. Might be a little awkward and clunky, but you got to try it. So in the meantime here, this is the GoBeercats Podcast. So before we get too far into it, before we bring Russ on here, it is time for a beer. And of course, this is brought to you by the Delhi Liquor Store. Don't be like me and forget a cigar for the party. This weekend is a Nip at Night showdown with the Red Hawks. So be prepared. Check them out for everything that you need for tailgating. I'm drinking a Geist tea. I love these things. When it's kind of sunny and hot out, I can slam these things down. 5%. I'm a big fan of the half and halves, half tea, half lemonade. And that's what I'll be sipping on here as I'm getting ready to bring on Russ. I guess I timed that perfectly here. I don't know if he can hear me as he's waiting in the green room. Hopefully everything kicks off here. I will bring him on now. Let's talk Bearcats beating Pitt just like the old days. Russ, welcome into the show, man.
Yeah, great to be with you. Love to make my first appearance on Go Beercats. Love that name right there. That's awesome. Fitting for a lot of nice alcoholic sponsor tie-ins. It's good stuff.
It is, yeah. I mean, we got the Delhi Liquor Store. Of course, we got the Cincy light gear in the background here. But you're right. It is your first time on the show. For anyone that hasn't heard of you yet, you are one half of the podcast Bearcat Blitz, co-hosted with former UC Wideout Dominick Goodman. You are a contributor for AllBearcats and AllBengals, which is part of Fan Nation, which is part of Sports Illustrated. So you are a man of many talents here. And I wanted to bring you on the show here to get, the relationship started. Certainly a guy who knows a lot about the Bearcats. So welcome in.
Well, love it, Brandon. Glad to be on the show and glad to be talking about winning ways for UC in the Scott Satterfield era. Those 4.5 opening win totals from April, those final bottom 3 team projections from the media polls, not looking too accurate right now for a Bearcats team that gets a win over Pitt that I would say, myself included, I had them losing 24-21. Many experts and many bettors, many sports books, really everybody projecting the Bearcats this year had that one as a loss, and it could be the fulcrum point of flipping them from a 500 or below 500 team to a bowl eligible or 7, 8, 9, 10 win team, which my co-host Dominick Goodman was talking about that today on Bearcat Blitz. He's a big believer in Scott Satterfield. He's had him 2-0 before the season started, picked him again this past weekend, and like so many other Bearcats fans, I was glad to see me go wrong on that prediction. What a start for UC. This defense, Emory Jones guiding the ship very well, and that rushing attack, man, that is driving everything at this point. Corey Kiner is living up to that 4-star status. Mm-hmm. He's living up to that projection I had for him as a starting runner, really neck and neck with Miles Montgomery in this backfield before the season started. He's taken full control of it and really, really asserted himself as the lead back in this offense. 20 carries on Saturday for 153 yards and a touchdown. I believe it was a career high in rushing yards and career long single rush for Corey Kiner, who we almost got him there, Brandon. We were so close. Corey just had to hit the burners a little bit on that final 10 yards to get in the end zone, but couldn't quite do it. Didn't matter, though. The Bearcats punch it in. I believe Peyton Singletary closed out that drive with a touchdown right there, his second straight week with a touchdown. And another guy kind of a surprise right there. And not that Corey Connor was a surprise, but Singletary being more impactful in the passing game than Shimon Matera. I did not have that on my bingo card, but it's a 2-0 bingo card. So Bearcats fans will take that.
We'll take it, man. You've hit on a lot there, and just like the very first thing you're talking about is the fan base, myself included. There's a lot of talk in the offseason about how week 2 was going to be where we learn a lot about this team, right? EKU, we're not going to really learn a lot about them. We're just going to out talent them to a huge victory. We did that, and then this was the early season indicator. Can the Bearcats hit that win total? Maybe you got it at 4.5. I myself got it at 5.5. Everything's pointing to them being able to hit that over, especially when you look at teams like Houston, which is an absolute dumpster fire. And there's Texas bias in the Big 12. I think whether you are the University of or just your address.
That's a good observation. I've never thought about that, but I think that is a good observation, Brandon.
Yeah, they're going to give you the benefit of the doubt, and obviously they didn't do their homework there. Houston has been a dumpster fire. They continue to be. So I still like my real life American dollars that I put on the Bearcats to hit that over. I'm much more comfortable with that after this Pitt win. But Russ, give me some of your. I mean, let's hit on the negatives first, if we can find some. I think there are some concerns, some things that need to be cleaned up, and they get the opportunity to do that with Miami coming to Nippert this weekend before the first Big 12 showdown with Oklahoma. So, what are some takeaways or some things that you're hoping they can clean up this week and next week in practice?
Well, I think the biggest thing that you're worried about, especially with kind of all the hog mollies that are going to be rolling out of the bus from Oklahoma in 2 weeks' time, and that front seven and that defense is the offensive line. Now, I said on the show last week that UC might have just played the best defensive front and the best front seven that they're going to face the entire season, given the strength of schedule lacking on this Big 12 slate the rest of the way and all that kind of stuff. But Oklahoma is going to be a decent test there in the trenches. And once again, the Bearcats, not once again, but gelling that offensive line, it's still a work in progress. Emory Jones takes 2 sacks. There were 6 tackles for loss from the Pittsburgh Panthers on Saturday night. There were plenty of pressures in this game. We had a couple penalties, 1 penalty on Gavin Gerhardt in the contest, and he was one of every single starter outside of D'Artagnan Tinsley graded below 60 overall on PFF. So that was a little concerning. Obviously, it was palpable throughout the second half how much of an impact that defensive front was having on the play calling, on the structure of the offense. Really, it was a Pike to Benz-esque type of pass from Emory Jones to Braden Smith to be the ultimate game-deciding touchdown in the end, with him making that amazing athletic play in the corner of the end zone. But without that, the offense would have really been in shambles in that second half, and it was due in large part to that vaunted Pittsburgh defense, which, of course, has been in the top 4 nationally in sacks created each of the last 4 years. So I think that's the big thing moving forward is one more week. You obviously drop down in competition now against the Miami team that's 1-1. They got I think it was an FCS win this past week, or it's at least against a team that was not even close to as good as their week 1 opponent. It was, UMass. So lower tier, independent FBS school, not in the FCS, but thank you, Brandon. UMass right there. Not of the quality of Miami, Florida, which beat the brakes off of Miami, Ohio in the Battle of the Miamis in week 1. Yeah. Brett Gabbert was a little wrong in saying that they were going to show Miami, Florida, who the true Miami was. So given the lack and the drop-off in competition, it's really going to be a question for me of, can UC cover this 16.5-point spread? And if the offensive line doesn't pick things up like you should expect them to against the team in Miami, in the MAC, in the Group of 5, the worst Group of 5 conference perennially every single year, then that's where some concerns can be had going into the game against Oklahoma, where if that offensive line is not starting to fire on more consistent 100% cylinders, then you're really going to start to think, all right, it might need to be a 21-17 win or a 16-13 win, or a game where you really lean on that rushing attack, which the run grades were solid for the most part for the Bearcats. They were not as bad as the pass blocking grades were on Saturday night. So I think that's going to gauge how you feel about this offense going into Oklahoma, is whether or not they can really just tighten things up and keep Emory Jones upright, clean, and see if he can get back to those passing stats that he posted against EKU in week 1.
Yeah, and kind of to play off of that, the penalties this week, I would say keep an eye on those. 7 for 90 yards, probably less than ideal. The week before that against EKU, I kind of highlighted our rush defense. We gave up 125 yards to EKU, much better against Pitt with only, I think, total of like 80 yards, 83 yards, something like that.
Yeah, they only gave up 2.9 yards a carry. I mean, that's gonna win the day every single week. That'll be good.
Yeah, I'll take that. I think that was probably something that they fixed or maybe highlighted in between games. I will take that. But talk to me about our secondary. And here's why I think they can be of some concern here. Pitt QB, old Dr. Phil, he was 10 for 32 in the game, right? Which you're like, 10 for 32, that sounds like we were playing some lockdown defense. But out of those 10 completions, 3 of those were for touchdowns. 30% touchdown rate is that is alarming for me. And there were several, I think maybe 3 PI calls in the game. Maybe just 2. I'm could be misremembering, but what's the outlook for our secondary as we have Miami this week, but the level of QB talent is going to skyrocket when we hit the Big 12 play.
No doubt. And Dylan Gabriel is a vaunted veteran at that. He's a guy that if he stays for next year could end up setting the all-time NCAA passing yardage record for the history of the sport. So he has a lot of experience, a lot of games under his belt, and a lot of impressive games at that. When you think about the Pittsburgh receiving core, 1,000% right and great observation, Brandon. 3 touchdowns allowed, 2 to Kanata Mumfield, 4 catches for 53 yards for Mumfield, 3 catches for 80 yards for Gavin Bartholomew. All in all, they gave up 18 yards per completion in this game. That is not going to cut it against Oklahoma. They'll drop a quick 35 piece on you with 4 or 5 explosives if you allow that to happen once again. I thought Jordan Young was solid in the game. He stood out to me as a guy that played pretty well and ended up grading out well in the tape, 78.3 overall grade out of that secondary, and had a nice pass breakup, a touchdown saving pass breakup in the corner of the end zone that I saw throughout the contest on Saturday night. Malik Van in the defensive line, headline.
Grown men only
front.
there.
He was
Grown men
awesome,
only.
man. Yeah, he was, half sack, half tackle for loss, all over the field, multiple tackles to amass a career-high 93.2 defensive grade and lead the Bearcats. But outside of Young and Threats, who was number 3 in PFF grade this week, 75 overall, he played pretty well, brought the hammer multiple times, had those hard hits that we're so used to seeing out of Brian Threats. You're right. It was a little bit of a mixed bag out of that secondary. 60.5 grade for Justin Harris, who has stepped in for Sammy Anderson Jr. after Anderson got a little bit of a head injury. We haven't gotten a firm, solid update. We know how these college football injury updates can be at times. They don't have to release definitive injury reports as demanded by the NFL offices and the NFL, so they're not going to release a lot of information on that. But we do know that Justin Harris was the next man up, and across 64 total snaps, 45 in coverage, he graded out to just a 60.5 overall, but a 65.3 coverage grade. So okay there. Dorian Jones was not great in coverage as a linebacker. DJ Taylor struggled in coverage. Ken Willis struggled in coverage across 6 snaps and 11 snaps for DJ Taylor. Both those guys graded below 55 overall. So outside of Young, Brandon, as of right now, there's only been 1 game of true Power 5 competition, but it seems like the transfer from the Power 5 is the only guy who's played at a Power 5 level at the cornerback position, at least. And Brian Threats has carried over his strong play. But Taj Ward, DJ Taylor, guys getting used to a new role in this secondary, and it kind of showed on Saturday against Pittsburgh. Yeah,
I think that's a good point there. I mean, there may be some new names that you haven't heard of before, but they are also maybe new names because they have not had that experience yet, and kind of getting tested by fire here early on. So we will certainly, I think it's something to keep an eye on, especially like I said, as we go into Big 12 play. Last concern I want to bring up is Xavier Henderson. All right. Well, I think week 1, he looked like Superman out there, could do no wrong. Looked like he was on another planet playing football. Of course, it was EKU. Came back down to earth a little bit here against Pitt. 1 catch, 10 yards. Is that Pitt doing its homework, or what do you think that the circumstances are here?
It was Pitt playing him well. Marquise Williams, MJ Devonshire, that kind of combination. I think it was mostly MJ Devonshire shading Henderson for a lot of the game. That combination, they're one of the better cornerback duos in the country. I don't know. I think Williams might have been out for this game, but they've perennially been one of the better duos in the country, and Devonshire has kind of headlined that cornerback room for nearly a half decade now. He's been in the sport for so long, so much veteran experience, and he forced Xavier Henderson to have a tough day. 1 catch for 10 yards after setting a career high with catches and yards the week before. Ended up grading out to just a 54.5 overall grade. So it wasn't a brutal day for Henderson. It just didn't get open a lot, didn't create a lot of separation. And because of that, Emory Jones was able to go to other places, able to find other guys, namely Braden Smith, like I mentioned. D. Wiggins had another solid game after having just 1 catch in week 1. Peyton Singletary, once again, just proving to be a nice outlet in those short intermediate routes in the middle of the field. So it was a tough day for the passing offense, but that passing offense did just enough. And when you don't lose the turnover battle in Power 5 contests like this against teams in the top 30 nationally, there are going to be hiccups. There are going to be phases of the game that don't look that great. But I think Bearcats fans are starting to become more accustomed and more prepared for grinding out wins in a sport, in a conference as deep as the Big 12 and a non-conference or another conference in the ACC that's deep as well when you're talking about the Pittsburgh matchup. So not everything went right for the Bearcats. Not everything went right for Xavier Henderson, but I think 160 total yards and 2 touchdowns with 2 touchdowns, 1 or 2 touchdowns, and 8 catches over his first 2 weeks and a 2-0 start as a Bearcat. I think he would be more than fine with that. But you are right. The Panthers did a nice job shutting down a guy that exploded in week 1. But what did the UC coaching staff do? They leaned on a guy who they didn't utilize as much in week 1, and Braden Smith. He was able to create some more separation, create some more mismatches at the lower levels of that secondary, and it ended up being the difference in the 27-21 victory. What a start for Cincinnati. It's just, I am very impressed with the amount of transfer turnover, the amount of coaching turnover, the jump up in competition. Now, we haven't seen that yet in the Big 12, obviously, but to start 2-0 and go on the road in Scott Satterfield's first road outing and really control the game throughout. They didn't trail at all in this contest, and they ended up being a 6-point win. They give up the 14 points and don't score in the fourth quarter. But overall, it never really felt like the Bearcats were going to let this one slip away. It felt like the Satterfield system, the Satterfield offense, and the Brian Brown defense got the lead rolling, got the lead up to 27-6, and then, or 27-7, and then the culture that UC and the Black Cats defense, that this entire program has amassed over 5 years of great team building by Luke Fickell, that really set in that fourth quarter, and the two things melded into a 27-21 big-time upset road victory for Cincinnati, heading into one of the most fun and anticipated 2-week stretches in program history, I would say, outside of waiting for that college football playoff. This is battle for the Victory Bell rivalry week, and then boom, Oklahoma, Big 12, big noon kickoff just got announced today. Great time to be a Bearcats fan for sure, and a fun time to cover the team, no doubt.
What? Absolutely. And, starting off with my concerns, I certainly don't want to take away from the victory that the Bearcats took away from Pittsburgh on Saturday. I just wanted to kind of get that out of the way. And to sort of credit Scott Satterfield, Statty Daddy, the Cyclops sunglasses celebration in the locker room. Loved that. I hope we see a bunch of those.
Those were Dorian Jones, weren't they? The Cyclops glasses?
He threw those on. I hope we see a bunch of people wearing those on the grid this Saturday. If I can Amazon some before Saturday, I might have my visor and Cyclops sunglasses on as well.
I wonder what those retail are. I wonder what the retail's looking like on those.
Well, I don't know if I can. I don't know if I can get the brand that they did, but I might be able to get a copycat pretty cheap, I would guess. I thought it looked like a coaching staff that one was familiar with the other staff, right? Satterfield,
great point.
Well aware of Narduzzi and what they had to offer. Maybe the other coaching staff not knowing what to expect, since it's a same coach that they're familiar with, but new program, new players, and everything. I think Satterfield had the edge on that on Saturday, and it showed, especially in the first half. Coming out, Bearcats smack them in the mouth after a 3-and-out. I forget what the first drive was, 60-some yards for a touchdown, and they never really looked back, like you were saying, and I was never really sweating that much, thinking the Bearcats were going to blow this. I think it's important to throw out Braden Smith's name out there. You had mentioned him, 5 for 59 yards, an amazing diving catch, which I don't know how he contorted his body to catch that, and then he threw
dragged that knee. That was crazy.
Dragged that knee. And then he threw for a 30-yard pass as well. So overall, great day. And
that was wasn't that down the sideline too? Like receiver going to the right sideline, and he had to thread it along the sideline. Dipping back into his high school quarterback days, right there from the pilot, Braden Smith.
Love it. Love everything about that. So, what Kiner going for 153 yards, career day for him. Of course, we don't see him have the breakaway speed that, oh man, his name just escaped me.
Jerome Ford.
Thank you. It's been a long day. He doesn't have the breakaway speed of Jerome Ford, but that's kind of a credit to Jerome Ford that speed is not easy to come by. But love to see him get the long break off there. And we kind of already mentioned this, but the grown men up front on defense. They looked like they were punishing all game long. The hit that I think Phillips had on the quarterback, where he was scrambling. I think maybe Briggs got in his way. He came back, and then he was met with a just absolute unit of a man taking him to the ground. So that's the defense I like to see. And I'm glad that aggressiveness is there, not only on defense but offense. Because I think, if you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think we're 4 for 4 on 4th down conversions in the first 2 weeks.
I can't remember one going wrong. Yeah. And they've all been kind of, is he going to go? Is he actually going to lean into the aggressive nature that we're used to seeing out of Scott Satterfield in the history past? Now that he's at maybe the most prestigious job he's ever had, you're dang straight he's going to go. He's been going, and it's been directly leading to UC points and UC victories, obviously. And one more guy I want to shout out in terms of the positives, Jack Dingle. Dingle. Okay. What a performance out of this guy. 7 tackles, career high, had 3 solo, 1 sack, 2 tackles for loss, came in like a speeding bullet, the fastest linebacker on the roster, right up the middle to sack Phil Jerkovich in one of these attempts. 5 sacks for the Bearcats, 8 tackles for loss, 8 passes defended. It was a stat stuffer of a Saturday for this UC defense.
This Saturday we have Nip at Night, which I'm glad that we get a Nip at Night game early in the season, because as we're tailgating, it's still going to be daylight. Last year we had a Nip at Night, and it was later on in the season, and it was like we're on the grid drinking in the dark. It was like it felt like we weren't supposed to be there. So I'm glad that we'll have some daylight to tailgate with this weekend as we go for the 17th in a row victory in the battle for the victory belt against officially the fake Miami. As you alluded to, they were playing for rights to call themselves the real Miami, and they were not up to task against.
Hey, I'm an OU alum, so I love
there
that.
We go.
Right there.
There you go.
Battle of the Bricks. Ohio has a lot more success in that this century than Miami.
Just taking L's all around for the poor Redhawks. What is there? I guess as they open up as a 17 or 16.5 point favorite here, are you confident in taking the Bearcats to cover that? And if not, what can Miami do to slow down this team in any way, shape, or form?
Honestly, I think the Bearcats, that's a solid line for me. Maybe 17.5 is the hook there that gets Bearcats fans more interested in taking their team and taking them to cover. But honestly, I don't know anything about this Miami roster right now. I got to dive in over the next couple of days and find some time between all the writing and the Bengals coverage and all that stuff. But I would be talking out of school if I tried to BS about the Miami roster right now. So I don't know much about the Redhawks. It sounds and feels like a solid line, and it feels like a line that would favor UC because of that 17-point hook. You could win 31-17 or 31-14 and still cover the number there. So a nice little 16.5, and I'll be interested to see if that moves past the key number of 17 over the next couple of days when I'm doing my research. But we'll have a deeper dive into Miami, from me at least, on Bearcat Blitz and my preview on AllBearcats.com dropping on Thursday. Those will come out, so it'll be good.
Very nice. I will be sure to link the social media and the content links in the show notes on YouTube and the podcast as well. Russ, I found this little nugget for the Battle of the Victory Belt today, and I shared it in the Catskeller Social Club Discord, and I want to share it here with you and all the listeners here. While last season the Bearcats took the edge in the overall series with Miami, now I believe it's 60 to 59 to 7 in favor of the Bearcats. I think that's the correct win-loss total there. But the series is tied 39 to 5 for games played in historic Nippert Stadium. So on Saturday, the Bearcats can, one, take a 2-game lead in the series, but officially break the tie for games played at Nippert. So nice little history nugget for everyone right there.
Thankful that there's no games at Paycor Stadium this year. That was a disaster last year. I hate these college football rivalry games, college basketball rivalry games, anything big in college sports. Honestly, I get it for the national championships, the NCAA tournament. I get it. You got to make the money. You got to do this neutral venues there. But in the regular season, people, let's keep these things as many times at home arena venues, home stadium venues as possible, because the atmosphere is so much better. Nippert's going to be packed on Saturday, whereas last year it was not a great showing from the Miami faithful, decent showing from UC, but what does that give you? A barely half full Paycor Stadium. So I love the fact that they have brought it back to Nippert Stadium this year, and I'm not exactly sure. I think they might have maybe one more scheduled date at Paul Brown, but for the most part, I think it might be mostly Nippert and mostly Nippert, and they don't really go to Miami really at all. They don't go to Yankee Stadium that much.
A couple of years ago, I forget what it was, but I feel as though UC gave them an ultimatum. Like, if you want to continue the series, we're going to do one at Nippert, one at the Bengal Stadium, and then we'll go to your place once every 3 years, basically. So we're basically just trying to get out of traveling, taking the short road to Oxford. I think is what we were doing there.
And they're like, and I could see it. It's like MAC school, burgeoning Power 5 school. The revenue splits. We don't need it. It doesn't. It's not a buy game for UC. That's kind of what it comes down to.
Yeah, and to kind of go off you, I saw a Facebook post that someone was irritated that the Oklahoma game is not going to be at Paycor Stadium, and I just left that post alone. I just kept scrolling. I was like, I'm not even going to touch that. I want Oklahoma in Nippert. All right, so. That's where I want them. I want 40,000 plus packed into Nippert and show them what's up there. I'm right there with you. I don't want to play any games that we don't have to at the Bengal Stadium or any other place.
The only two other times I believe this program has faced Oklahoma, back in 2008, 2010, they get waxed by 26 on the road at Oklahoma. What is the result at home behind Zach Caleros, Isaiah Pete and company in 2010? A narrow 31-29 defeat. So just goes to show the difference that Nippert can make. And not that Nippert wasn't great back then, but it's obviously grown exponentially. The fan base has grown. The game day atmosphere has grown. And it will be something those Oklahoma staffers, fans, players, all of them have never really experienced, because they weren't really around on the staff or player-wise, obviously, back in 2010. The fans might have some memories from that fun game, 31-29. Unfortunate Bearcats loss, but just goes to show the impact that Nippert can have in a ranked matchup, which if Bearcats handle their business and cover exponentially on Saturday, they could definitely be ranked after getting 3 votes in the AP poll, but I would expect them to be just outside once again and getting into those rankings with a victory over Oklahoma.
That's a great point. Thank you for bringing that up, Russ. I want to be respectful of your time. I certainly appreciate the first appearance here on the GoBeercats podcast. If listeners are not familiar with your show or want to look into it, they're a Bearcats content junkie like myself, where can they find the podcast and everything else that you produce?
Oh, yeah. Thanks, man. Yeah, great to be on the show. Love doing it. It was a fun conversation talking about the big win over Pitt. You can go to allbearcats.com. Just look up AllBearcats on Google. You can go to my Twitter at Russ Heltman 11, right there on the StreamYard banner, on the video banner right here below me. And you can check out the podcast through that. I got it pinned on top of my page. And really anywhere you get your podcasts, find us on Talking Cats with Russ Heltman, the YouTube channel. We got interviews with players there, all of the podcasts up there. Got all my writing on All Bearcats. There's a ton of ways to get the fan nation access to UC athletics. Been a lot of fun doing it since November 2021, and going to keep growing and keep adding more. So doing stuff like this is great. Love the cross-pollination, and I love you having me on today, Brandon. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. We will certainly talk to you soon. All right, ladies and gentlemen, like I said, a little different type of episode here. Certainly want to thank Russ for coming on, sharing his thoughts. Good stuff there. Check out his show and his writings. Definitely has a lot to offer, and sounds like he has no plans of stopping anytime soon. I'm staying on here really just to take care of some housekeeping things here. Number one, I want to talk to you about this Saturday, Battle for the Victory Bell, Bearcats and Redhawks. Showing in the showdown that is to come. Nip at night, wear black. If you need a place to tailgate, the Den has you covered. Big things happening at the Den this week. Alabama Q will be slinging up some turkey tips, chicken, and some other sides. That's always delicious. You can still get your season pass or just your game day pass. Season pass $30. Game day pass $5. So check out thedenuc.com for more of that. It's always a party at the Den. We have DJ Hope this weekend spinning some tunes, making it a dance party. And also, if you're already a season pass holder, pick your season pass merch is ready. Your koozies, your t-shirts, which are black and would be a great thing to wear this weekend. Go ahead and pick those up at the Growler House. So you look good, you feel good, and then the Bearcats will play good. So pick up the merch from Growler House. Come out to the Den. It's a party. Russ was telling us a little bit about he likes the Bearcats to cover, whether the line moves, whether it doesn't. Of course, when we talk betting, it is brought to you by the BetStamp app that not only allows you to line shop, but you can also track all of your bets in one location. So if you're using multiple sports books like myself, keep track of your bets easier, line shop, find the best odds so you know that you are betting smart. Right now, I see the Bearcats at 17-point favorites this Saturday. I am going to take the Bearcats to cover that with ease. Last week, we had Darren on for the second time. Our score predictions for this Pitt game, Darren was 24-17 Bearcats. I was 27-24 Bearcats. So I think I take the edge there with Darren. He had the edge in week one. So 1-1 coming in closest to the score. I will give myself the point there. This week, though, I'm taking the Bearcats 42-10, 42-9. I'll say 10. I'll say that Miami scores at least one touchdown, but I like the Bearcats to cover. Do not take my betting advice, though. That's my my warning there. Do not. I am I'm not a professional gambler, so however, I do like the Bearcats to cover there. Last thing here, we'll leave this nice. We're going to try something here, okay? My good friends over at Cincy Slangin, Hummer and Coomer, they had a wild episode this past week. Be sure to go check them out as well. I don't know where he said this, whether it was on the show the week before or if it was just in the Discord, but our friend Hummer, who is a renowned Satty daddy, just not hater, but certainly doubter. Doubter is the right word there. He said for every Bearcats touchdown, he would shotgun a beer on the episode this week. And he shotgunned 3 beers. Kudos to Hummer. Way to keep your word here. However, my Chillicothe, Ohio math thinks you're off a little bit. You shotgunned 3, but the Bearcats scored 27 points. Now, I know they didn't score 4 touchdowns, but 2 field goals equal a touchdown. I think you were 1 short, Hummer. I think you were 1 short. So this isn't going to make for great podcasting or video here, but I'm going to slide over here to the beer fridge, grab a Cincy Light, and to make up for your miscounting, I will, Coach Carter style. I'll do some push-ups, Coach. I will shotgun this beer that I think you're missing off of your math. Give me 1 second. Headphones on, sitting down. I'm not even prepared. I'm using an ink pen to pop this thing. Trying not to get it all over my computer here. My dog, who is the unofficial co-host, is cleaning up the spilled beer. Hummer, this is for you, brother. And that's number 4. Cheers. Go Bearcats.